Hey everybody, GameHounds podcast. Again, exactly the same, but better. And actually recording so you can put it up as a podcast. Hi, welcome. And if this is your first time watching us, this is GameHounds podcast with Nick going super fuzzy. I'm Edie Sellers. With me is Nick Nicola. And let's, you know what? Let's start the new year off right. Okay.
Okay.
We're actually going to they've moved things around. Okay, there we go. They've moved things around. We're gonna start it with the real actual music. So let's start
Oh,
with our first official intro of 2025.
This podcast discusses video games, modern culture, and technology, and these podcasters are big fat potty mouths. If you're younger than 18 or are easily offended, please stop this podcast now. Oh, and your mom says to take out the trash and do your homework.
Hello and welcome to GameHounds. GameHounds episode 770. We are recording this on January 12th, 2025. This is the first episode of 2025. Nick and I have been dark for the last 2 weeks for you guys, so kind of nice to come back. I missed you. I didn't really miss Nick as much as you because I saw Nick over. We spent.
I guess that's true. That's true.
I
Yeah.
saw you in New Year's, so I did see Nick over the break. But yeah, I missed doing the podcast quite a bit. I mean, it was nice. The first week was kind of nice. It's like I got a whole Sunday to myself, and then the second time it was like I could really use. I could really go back.
I enjoyed it, if only because I had the two weeks off, like the Christmas New Year weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to do anything. I
Yeah.
just played games. I watched TV. It's like nope, no obligations, nothing.
Yep.
And I got a lot done. I didn't get done all that I said I wanted to do on the last show, but I'm close.
What did you get done?
The three things I wanted to do, I wanted to finish Metaphor, I wanted to play Black Ops 6, and I wanted to play Indiana Jones. I played Indiana Jones, played Black Ops, did not beat Metaphor. But I am on my way to it.
That's how you've been. You've been almost finishing Metaphor.
But I am in
a really long time.
I am in like the end game area.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am.
Are you
I'm
absolutely
sure?
That's the thing about Metaphor Refantasio is it seems like it's over and then it's not.
No, it's definitely almost over.
All right. Good. I made probably the worst Christmas dinner I have ever made in my life. Absolutely everything turned out not awful, but not right. It was just, yeah, I kind of want to do over on that. I pride myself in being a pretty good cook, and everything was just one of those days. Everything went wrong. And some of the stuff went right, and it just didn't come out right. Like there is this, I guess this person on TikTok or Instagram, I don't know, that called Teeny, who apparently had this macaroni and cheese recipe that everybody is raving about. And like I saw independent articles about how good this macaroni and cheese recipe actually is. And I made it, and it was vile. Oh my God, it was so much work. It was 3 pounds of cheese.
Oh, geez.
It was so much work, unnecessarily futzy work for macaroni and cheese, which is actually really easy to make. So many ingredients that were expensive.
And all that
it just did not taste.
Did something like go wrong, or is it just that turns out the recipe itself?
I made it exactly as they said I was supposed to make it, and the taste was just wrong. It just was flat out wrong. Like it called for Dijon mustard, and it's like all you could taste was the mustard, And I double checked that I put in the right amount. It was not right. So I don't know if it was just, and I was having a really bad, some days you're kind of like, like sometimes you try to parallel park and you like nail it every time. And then some
No,
days,
I never try to parallel park.
oh, really?
Never.
Well, there's some times that I try to parallel park and I can parallel park like a champ. But some days I'm like, no problem. And then some days it's like, oh, I can feel that it's just not going to be a good parking day. It's just, I'm not going to be able to park. And sure enough, it's like rookie moves the whole time. It takes me like 6 tries to get it something that should be like in my sleep, I should be able to do it. This was one of those cooking days where it's like, oh, everything I touch is going wrong. Just the way it is. So yeah, that was my Christmas experience, was making the worst meal made in a
Well, speaking of vile things, you got me a birthday gift.
I did. Well, it wasn't really a birthday gift for you. What I got was a Christmas gift for everybody who watches GameHounds. And I saw it actually as a news item, instantly went to Amazon before it was sold out, and I bought it and had it sent to you.
Okay, so it was a series of sodas.
It's a multi-pack, a variety pack of soda.
I just grabbed the first 3 and I put them in the fridge for today. So now people can choose if I drink black olives,
black olive soda. What's the name of the company, by the way?
Sweet corn.
Ugh, God.
Hang on. Or peanut butter and jelly.
Oh, God.
And this looks like it's coming from Lester's Fixins.
Lester's Fixins.
Yeah, it's backwards, but
yeah. Well, on yours, it's right way too on ours. So yeah. So and it is what, 12 of them?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch.
There was pickle juice and just all kinds of wrong things. It should never be a soda. So, chat room, go chat room. What should Nick be drinking right now? I know what I have a vote for. I think peanut butter and jelly sounds disgusting.
Oh, I'm not even like a big fan of peanut butter and jelly in general.
Oh, poor AC Ray says, naturally the technical difficulties occurred right after I posted the link on Blue Sky. Don't. Yeah, sorry about that. That was my bad. I should have noticed the little exclamation points it was giving me that said, hey, we have a problem. We don't have any space to be able to record. But I noticed it just as I hit, go live. I was like, son of a bitch. And you can't undo that. Once it says we're not recording, it's not recording. So you have to kind of back out and start again. So I think it's only in the chat room right now, but at some point when we get more than one person, so it's more than just 2 people voting.
Well, AC Wraith can still vote, and we'll take his vote into
consideration. We'll do it. We'll do it right before the news, or right at the beginning of the news.
Yeah.
So while we were off on our break, there were a lot of games to be played. What games did you play?
As I mentioned, the first thing that I started putting a lot of time into was Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which I'm happy to come back and report that it is a good game. It's not a great game. It starts a little slow and it ends jumping the shark like the past couple movies have. So it kind of starts poorly and kind of ends poorly, but the middle portion is actually really, really good. And it's good because when you think of Indiana Jones, at least in the gaming sphere, you kind of think of Uncharted. But this is not trying to be Uncharted. This is trying to be something very different to its benefit. It's trying to be a more low-key kind of exploration and archaeological, searching for hidden treasure exploration game. And so the way that plays out is you are often put into these like big hub areas. And there are 3 of them. Like the first one is the Vatican City. And the second one's Egypt. And so you're in these big hub areas. and you'll just get quests from people. It's kind of like a mini open world.
Mhm.
But different sections of the level will be kind of cordoned off by Nazis. Where, oh, I want to get into this building, but the Nazis have taken it over, so I have to find a way to sneak in, or I have to like find a Nazi uniform so I can blend in and walk in, and they won't suspect anything. So it's more of a stealth game than you would expect it to be.
Except for this one the preview that we're watching right now, where the guy failed the stealth and had to beat the guy up. Uh-oh, Nick sneezing. I didn't count. How many was that? I'm just gonna go 9.
I don't know. But what's cool about how the stealth works is that if you pick up an item, you can usually do a one-hit stealth kill if you sneak up on a guy.
Mhm.
If you don't have an item, you can't do that, and you would have to get into a fist fight, but that often alerts other guards. So that means you're often kind of scrounging around the environment, and that lends all of the combat and even all of the stealth a nice sense of improvised chaos, where I've got a wrench in my hand and I see a guy over there. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use the wrench to knock him out, but then the wrench is going to break. So then I've got to find another thing. Oh, there's a shovel here. Well, okay, maybe if I pick up the shovel or I pick up the wrench and I throw the wrench over there to distract that guard, he'll walk over there and I'll take the shovel, go over, knock him out with it. The shovel breaks, but then I can pick up the wrench I used as a distraction to get the next guy. And that's kind of the series of thinking that you go through as you're sneaking around the levels is not just how do I get from point A to point B, but what around the environment can I use to help me get from point A to point B?
Right.
And like I said, that lends just like a very nice kind of scavenger underdog attitude. Because like a lot of the best action scenes from Indiana Jones movies are these almost physical comedy like pratfall action scenes where one thing happens and another thing happens. It's just like this escalation of, oh, you're going to start the fight over here, then everyone's going to fall down a tunnel and end up someplace else, then you're going to fall someplace else, then you're going to go someplace else, and it's just like this kind of series of chaotic turns in the environment that affect both Indy and the people he's fighting. But that's what makes it exciting, because there's every big action scene kind of has these moments of chaos and improvisation, and the game captures that on like a very small scale in gameplay. That's really, really cool. So that's nice. Unfortunately, like I said before, the opening area, Vatican City, is not that really fun to play or explore. It's a maze of hallways and locked doors, so that when you get an objective that says go into this building over there, you'll go over and then, oh, there are some Nazis in front, so I can't get in. Well, like you're kind of in this plaza. So if I can't go in that door, well, the door next to it is locked. That one's locked. That one's locked. The other ones over there are locked. Do I have to like go up and go through a window? And you're just kind of looking around. How do I get into this door? And the way the level is structured, it's not obvious where you need to go. And then when you do find something, you're like, oh, I'm inside a building. Which way do I go to get to my objective? Do I have to go left? Do I have to go right? Like, what's going on? And oftentimes, the objective marker doesn't do a good job, at least in Vatican City. It doesn't do a good job of pointing where to go, because it will just point you, yeah, go through that door that the Nazis are guarding. Because the game wants you to look around and find an alternate path. So it's not going to tell you about that alternate path.
Mhm.
But at least in the Vatican City, that alternate path is just like hidden within a labyrinth of hallways and locked doors. And it's not particularly fun.
Mhm.
But get past that, go to Egypt, which is the second big area. That is a much more interesting place to explore, just because it's, it's more classic archaeologist, Indiana Jones kind of treasure hunting. But the sections that are taken over by camps. And since Egypt is a really, really big area, each of those camps is kind of isolated from all the other ones. So you come up to like this camp with a fence around it, and you're like, okay, I can't go through the front, but I can absolutely walk around that fence and try to find a hole in it, or try to find a tunnel, or try to find some other alternate path. And it's just a lot easier to, find those alternate routes that the game really wants you to find. And I think that's what makes Egypt a lot more entertaining to play, because it kind of feels like the game is letting you play the way that it wants to be played. Combat itself is really, really cool. It's hard when you have a bunch of guys, but it's kind of easy when it's one-on-one, because it's just a matter of like timing your blocks and timing your hits and making sure you don't run out of stamina. But the moment there's like two guys, all of a sudden, oh, you've got to shift your focus. It's a lot like Kingdom Come Deliverance in that regard, where, one-on-one, okay, I can take this guy. But the moment there's two people, they start to surround you. And you're like, oh, okay, this is going to go very bad very quickly if I don't pick up a shovel and knock someone out. The puzzles are generally pretty good. There's a lot of tombs, a lot of which are, main story quests. And then a lot of the subquests, too, are just have you go into a tomb and solve a puzzle. And they're all compelling and interesting.
Are
And
are
just
the
fun to do.
quests leading to a grand story?
Yes,
Or
there's absolutely a grand story. It has to do with the Great Circle, which is this, if you look at these different major historical sites around the globe and you draw a line, they form a great circle. And so the question kind of becomes, what is this circle? What connects one site to another? And that is the reason why you kind of go on this globe-trotting adventure, because you're going from one site on the Great Circle to another site on the Great Circle to another site. The final revelation of what the Great Circle is a bit of a jump the shark moment. There's a moment halfway through where something supernatural happens, and at the moment I was like,
yeah.
it's a little much. The key that I think makes those first three movies really, really good is there are supernatural elements in those movies, but they are incredibly, incredibly grounded. The arc opens up and all these, ghosts, whatever, who knows
And the
what the
Nazis'
supernatural
faces
stuff
start
is.
melting, and
But like, boom, it's gone. It's like 2 minutes and that's it. That's it. Temple of Doom has some supernatural stuff, but it's less about the supernatural things are not big. They're not like these big explosive events. Like Last Crusade, he finds an immortal crusader, but the immortal crusader, he doesn't have to fight him, right? It's not like, oh, here's this immortal guy and I'm gonna have to beat you. It's no, this immortal guy is like, yeah, go over there and pick a cup. And it's like, oh, he's immortal. There is a supernatural thing going on here, but it's not spectacle, right? The supernatural is not necessarily a big spectacle. But in the fourth movie and in the fifth movie and in this game, it very much is a spectacle. And the final revelation, the last level, you're like going through these caves and you stumble across a giant discovery that like links the Great Circle to other myths, and it's like, oh, yeah, you did it. Yeah, there was the line, and you were on that line. You walked that line, and you didn't step over it. You just took a flying leap, just a flying leap over that line. And I think the whole ending it goes on for a little too long. It's a
yeah.
little too bombastic, and it's like, come on, let's just end it here. But the middle section is like a surprisingly fun game and a surprisingly different type of game.
Full Metal Jones.
Yeah, I'm glad I played it.
Yeah, it looks like fun. It looks like a really good kind of I don't want to say time waster, but like a nice entertainment.
It is, and it is an adventure game, which is like a very interesting distinction. And like I can't put my finger on exactly what is it? Like, it's not an action adventure game. It's just an adventure game. It's a game that prioritizes the feeling of exploring new locations and discovering things over the feeling of combat, right? There's a clear priority for the adventure over the action, which is not what you get in a lot of games nowadays, right? Like Assassin's Creed is generally action adventure, but that's a series that has a lot of action.
Yeah.
A lot of action. And Indiana Jones is very much designed to try to avoid the action, stealth, sneak up to people, hit those Nazis in the back of the head. Don't shoot them in the face.
Even though they desperately deserve it.
Yeah. Well, the guns in this game suck.
Oh, really?
Not only are bullets really, really rare, but there's like one instance towards the end of the game where like I'm going through the cave and there's lots of Nazis around, lots of guns around. I'm like, you know what? Okay, time to start shooting. Get it, walk up to a guy, bam, headshot. Turns around. I'm gonna get you. Starts shooting at me. Like, wait, what? How are you alive?
I just shot you in the head.
I take a machine gun and I'm like, blah, and like shoot a guy 5 times. And he turns around and hits me. And I'm like, what is this? What is this? So yeah, it's got its quirks, but for the most part, I deeply appreciate a good game with some like kind of wonky quirks that are really interesting more than a game that tries to be super polished and perfect. It's like, you're a little too perfect and you kind of lost some of your soul. This is a game that has soul.
Right. So we have added a surprise guest for today. We have
a little
Chaos. Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
Hey.
How was New Year's and Christmas?
Oh, I worked.
Oh.
Hopefully you got time and a half or double time.
Oh yeah. No,
good. There you go.
I got time and a half for both Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, so
nice.
Okay.
Good.
That's good money. Good
Yes.
money. So, we're. I guess we got even more to talk about. Chaos. What did you play big over the holiday?
Oh goodness. I wish I had more fun stuff. I'm still playing like Helldivers.
Yeah.
I finished Spider-Man 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been mostly playing
not
older
Spider-Man
things.
2, just Spider-Man.
Well, yeah. Spider-Man 2 should be coming to PC here in this month.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Spider-Man just came to PC.
Right.
Yeah. No, I haven't been playing anything. Oh, I guess Marvel Rivals. I've been playing a fair amount of that.
Yeah.
I've wanted to try that out.
I've heard very good things. In fact, things crashing. There's so many people playing it right now.
Oh, the game crashes all the time for me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's the same thing on console, but yeah. It's good. It's it's way more there's way more interactions and depth in it than you would initially think so, like especially for what seems like an IP grab. It is proving to have legs.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying. What I'm seeing is that I expect it to come in, that people get like, over it, like play it, it was fun, over it, back to, whatever they were playing before. But that's not what's happening. A lot of people are sticking with it.
I was talking with Ryan the other day, and he described it as what Overwatch used to be before all the heroes got flattened into generic DPS characters. Like,
yes,
the characters in Marvel Rivals are allowed to be different. You're allowed to have a true tank, a true support, a true offense, instead of no, we want everyone to do DPS, so we just kind of flatten them all. It's like it's old Overwatch.
Yeah, no, I've to a person who really played Overwatch before, like a friend of mine, he said Overwatch is better than Marvel Rivals, but Marvel Rivals is way better than Overwatch 2. So no, it's a little messy. It can get hectic. There's balancing concerns, but I'm not even sure necessarily what that looks like. How you fix that? Proving to be a good time though. Like, one of the things that I love in the game is Doctor Strange. He has the ability to make a portal, and people are learning the fun of portals, just like from Portal 2. And like, there's 12.5 interactions that you can do with that portal, where like you can make a nice big platform for one of your DPS to basically be shooting through. So they use their ult, or you cast it last second and somebody drops in like a bomb to use their ult.
Oh man, does this mean that Portal 3 will just be a Doctor Strange game?
It could be.
There's never going to be a Portal 3. I was having that conversation with Chris this morning.
Yeah, because it'll be a Doctor Strange game.
Ideas that he has for like, what they should do with Steam. And I'm like, they're not going to do anything with Steam. You know why? Because Gabe has enough money. If Gabe wanted to make more money, he would go to his vault, open it up, pick any number of titles, and just do a sequel. That's how Gabe makes when he needs a little extra scratch.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, over the Christmas, AC Wraith said he got sick and just started getting better this week.
Oh no!
So that sucks. But
Yeah.
glad you're on the mend at least.
Yeah.
And he played a lot of pinball.
Yeah,
It was Zachariah pinball, Peanuts Christmas table.
Tables, the Peanuts Christmas table for Pinball FX, and the Metroidvania Rockatron. Still, he says he still has some other games I bought to get to. Yeah, they had some pretty good sales on Steam and a bunch of other platforms over the Christmas holiday.
Oh yeah, everything on my wish list on Steam was on sale, and I bought none of it.
Yeah, no, I was cash spent at this point. I was scraping the barrel at this point.
Yeah.
So, Marvel Rivals. Nick, did you play anything else? I mean, I have other things that I have played, but I mean, only thing that I have played that I've already talked about it, and everybody knows about Diablo 4.
I played some Diablo 4.
That's right. We
you,
played Diablo
Chris.
4.
Yeah.
Did you play it? Do you play any more of it beyond what we played together?
I played with Chris one night.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I haven't gone back myself. I want to, because I feel like I didn't get the full Diablo experience.
No, you got power level, dude, and that's not the full Diablo experience.
Yeah, and because the thing is, like, it was really easy. Like, it was just kind of an easy game.
It is.
And it
just is.
Okay, there's this kind of inherent conflict with Diablo 4 that I don't know how to resolve, where you're looking at all this equipment with all these stats and all this, like, 0.4% increase to armor every 4 seconds when you attack, and this stacks up to 26%. Or this other thing has 0.5% increase. This other thing will make you go 2% faster. And it's like all these very nitty-gritty numbers that make you feel like, the tiny changes. But when I'm playing the actual game, it's walk up to monster and bash it. Walk up to monster and bash it. Walk up to monster and bash it. And I'm like, wait, what? Why did I spend all this time trying to think about what build I'm making when the actual gameplay is just walk up and mash A? It's like, wait, all the RPG of this RPG doesn't matter.
It does when you start getting into higher difficulties. Like, I have just unlocked Torment 3. And when you hit Torment 3, you have to get no more just running. Like, I'm a necromancer, so I'm not supposed to be meant to be like front row, slashing at things. And I've been like, just run in and bash them. And then you do that at Torment 3, you get very quickly have your ass handed to you. So as you get more into and I kind of like that about the way that they've done Diablo. If you're just somebody who wants to go in there and just murder things and don't ever worry about it, just go and wreck shit with magic and or melee or whatever, easy enough to do. You can just stay on normal mode or any of the 3 base modes, and then you could even go up to Torment 1 and it's still going to be pretty easy. Torment 2 is even going to be pretty easy at a certain point. When you start getting into Torment 3, you start having to Torment 2 is when you really start having to play your character the way it's meant to be played. And when you get up into those higher levels, then it's like you cannot fuck around because you will find out very quickly.
But don't you have to beat the game before you get those difficulty levels?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna mention, like, yeah, when you're playing through the first time, it's literally just use whatever's higher, like within reason. Like, obviously, don't change to like a blue item when you have a yellow that's one level higher. But like, don't worry about your gear. Don't worry about your stats. Everything that you're getting will be superseded in 5 levels.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe get familiar with what kind of things you can get. But yeah, this game in particular doesn't get hard. You don't have to worry about that till like later.
Yeah, those levels are the point where you just have them broken down. Whatever you get, just break it down. Pick some favorite stuff. Don't sell anything. Just have it broken down with the blacksmith so that you can get the plan, so that you can use those later when you do get to the end game and you start actually getting actual gear that you want to gear specifically for your character, for the kind of build that you want to make.
I kind of agree. There's a reason they didn't finish the game.
AC Ray says, honestly, not learning your character until the 3rd campaign sounds like bad design. I was out with a friend yesterday.
I like it because it gives you the option of like, hey, I decided I wanted to play it this way. No, you know what? I don't want to be a minion necromancer. I want to actually do a physical, like be a damage dealer, like hand to hand or, melee. So you can cash in all of your points and rebuild yourself into a totally different kind. So you can like tailor what you want, how you want to play, and it could change at any time. So it's kind of nice that way.
Yeah, I was out with a friend yesterday, and he was telling me about Path of Exile 2, and he kind of described it as Diablo 4 meets Dark Souls, because it was a lot harder, and it's like, yeah, when you get to a boss, you're kind of meant to die a couple times before you can defeat it. And I thought, I like the sound of that. That sounds like my type of game. Give me something brutal.
Yeah, the final after you finish the game, there is a battle that you can fight with Lilith. That is no joke. It is hard and it's multi-stage, and you have to learn each of her stages. And here's the thing that I found out the hard way is that when you learn those stages, there's multiple options for each stage that could happen. So you have to figure out which one she's doing at the first stage, because how you react to it is completely different. I mean, totally different things that they will throw at you. Like sometimes in the first stage, they will stop and then they will start spawning a bunch of stuff around you and you have to fight it. Sometimes in that first stage, they will stop and all of a sudden the floor is lava. So it's not even just like small differences, very major differences between each of the possible variants for each stage. So you have to not just know that character, you have to like eat, drink, and breathe that character for a little while before, or that enemy for a little while before you can figure out what to do, because almost every fight is going to be different. You just have to know the stages and get each of the stages and all the variants down pat, and then get lucky that you're going to get the series of stages and the variants that you know.
I like the sound of that. That sounds fun.
It is definitely very, very soul crushing.
Here's the thing, though, like Path of Exile 2, you're describing the first boss.
Oh god,
that's okay. You know what? Screw this. I'm deleting Diablo. I'm downloading Path of Exile.
Okay, I want to say that there's not a lot of like variants. Like there are stages that you have to like learn each time, but like the major bosses, every time I was fighting them, I'd die on the 3rd stage because there was something new that I wasn't ready for. Like, so yeah, Path of Exile takes that idea and runs with it.
Cool.
Path of Exile 1 though got described as a spreadsheet with a game attached. So understand, like, there are entire web pages designed on how to build a character in guild, or like build, and I say guild, my bad. And that becomes the game. The game becomes staring at a screen of what the stuff that you want to get while you run around and try to like just grind out maps and stuff.
I mean, the thing is, I'm not opposed to that, because that is an RPG. Has those stats that I'm grinding all reflected in the gameplay. That's all I ask for as a gamer, that my RPG stats affect the gameplay. I don't think it's that big of an ask.
No, it's not. And that is the case with Diablo 4, but it's endgame.
You gotta work to it.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, I'm going to send you a link. This is just for later. It's for Path of Exile 1, not 2. And Path of Exile 2 is a little bit harder, but it's the worst guide to Path of Exile. And it is, it kind of explains the game.
The worst guide?
Yes.
Okay. Did you do it on Discord or the text?
Yeah, Discord.
Okay, Discord.
But Path of Exile 1 has like 10 layers of bosses. Like where you get to a point, it's like, oh, you beat the campaign boss. Oh, then you beat the world boss. Then you beat the multi-dimensional boss. Then you beat the god of dimensions. And then you beat like, you just keep going up. You're a god by the end of it.
Well, all right. So that's was my. I mean, we could talk forever on Diablo 4 because I mean it is a way of life. Conclusion.
So your arc on Diablo 4 has been amazing, Edie. Of the course of like a month and a half, it's, oh man, I'm loving Diablo. It's so good. Next time, I fucking hate Diablo. It's so boring. And now it seems like you're back on the Diablo's pretty good. It's not that bad.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is that in that mid stage of going through it the first time, yeah, you do get a point where it's like, why am I fucking playing this? And then you hit the end game, and then it becomes like, oh, this is why I'm playing it.
AC Wraith has a description for Path of Exile 2. It's an ARPG that's actually a JRPG?
Yeah.
I like that.
All right, so what else did you play, Nick?
Well, speaking of like really difficult games that I can sink my teeth into, I played Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which is the pinnacle of just shoot him in the face. just walk up, boo boo, pew 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 pew, pew pew pew, and I just pew 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 pewed for 5 to 6 hours and enjoyed my time with it. In fact, that game is at its worst when you're not pew 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 pewing people. There's like a section where back up. COD Ops is like the conspiracy theory political thriller of the Call of Duty series.
It looks like Hitman to me.
Black Ops 6 feels like the 6th entry in the series because it was like, oh, this dude, we're getting a team back together and we're going to talk to this lady over there. And it's like, oh, all of these characters seem to have like a pre-existing relationship that I know nothing about. But it doesn't matter because the gist of it is some shit happens. You create your team of like rogue CIA agents who are going to go out across the world and do various secret CIA stuff. And that includes some really great levels. There's one where you're in the desert and you're kind of assisting the British military. And it's actually like a mini open world where you got to hop in a car and drive to these various objectives. And similar to Far Cry, you can choose how you want to go about doing these objectives. Am I going to sit far away and just snipe at each of the enemies to take them out? Or am I going to drive my car right into the middle of the base, hop out, guns blazing? The sniping is really, really satisfying because when you're looking down the scope and you put the cursor over a guy, one of your teammates will say, don't take that shot, someone will notice. Or they'll say like, yeah, you're clear. So like the game is telling you through the other characters, like, hey, you're trying to be stealthy using the sniper rifle. If you kill that guy, people will notice and you will not be stealthy. But they do it, through the conversation, and it's so cool. But when you do take a shot, just the sound effects of like the boo, and like, it's so satisfying. There's just this pop that's like, oh, I love that pop. I love that. I just want that pop over and over and over again. It's so
the
satisfying.
Pop of people's heads exploding.
It's
music to my ears.
It's
what I think about when I go to sleep at night.
It is like genuinely great sound design, which is not something you think about a lot. But in this moment, it's so good that like I have to call it out.
One of the things for me, Call of Duty's always made shooting really feel good. Like it's at its peak. It just makes shooting the guns feel good.
The first thing I noticed, booted up the game, went like, okay, Call of Duty is weird now because Call of Duty is like a whole live service experience. Well,
Yeah.
I had it on Game Pass. I didn't download Black Ops 6. I downloaded the Call of Duty app. And then within the Call of Duty app, I downloaded Black Ops 6.
Right.
But the moment the game is going, I push a control stick. I take like 2 steps and I turn around. And it's just immediately, I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like just the movement, the way that the aim assist works. Like you kind of aim at a guy and you pull the trigger to zoom in and it locks onto the guy and you can shoot him. All of it just feels perfect. Just the act of moving around this world and the act of shooting is just, I don't know exactly what they do, but it's just leagues above any other game, any other shooter that I've played in a long time. It was just coming back and playing like Call of Duty after not playing one for like 15 years. Like, oh shit.
As
Now
Todd
There's a
Howard would
reason why
say,
people like this game,
yeah,
like
this is
these games.
play this game. Like this just feels better than everything else.
this is the first Call of Duty you've played in a long time, right?
This is the first one I've played since probably Modern Warfare 3, the original Modern Warfare.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, they've managed to keep it feeling like this for a while, I think. Like you were saying, there's a reason these are so popular. And I want to quote Todd Howard with, "It just works."
Yeah.
No, I kind of wanted to get this. A little PSA for anyone who does end up picking up a Call of Duty. No, and I'm not sure how it works with Game Pass, but like if you do it on Steam or Battle.net, you have to go into the settings and make sure you're not downloading every other Call of Duty as well, because they will make you do that. That's why it's 500 gigabytes.
Oh, that's why.
But if you unclick like Modern Warfare and stuff like that, it'll just download this one, which is like 100 gigs, which is still a lot, but like it's not all of the Call of Duties.
Right.
Yeah. I was a little upset, like within the Call of Duty app, they or at least like the ones that are free on Game Pass. There's Modern Warfare 3 and like Cold War, or maybe it was Vanguard. It was like 3. But then that was it. And I thought, well, wait, this feels so good to play. I kind of want to play through the new Modern Warfare trilogy to see how that goes. But the first 2 games aren't available on Game Pass, and I was disappointed by that.
You weren't going to buy them.
No, I'm not going to buy them. These games like never go on sale. Call of Duty games never go on sale.
And specifically, this Call of Duty is never going on sale because they need to make all that money that they spent on Activision back on this game.
Yeah. But yeah, so in terms of the actual game itself, you know, your Black Ops CIA guys doing Black Ops CIA stuff. I think where the game is at its weakest is in a couple specific sections where it tries to get all psychedelic. You know, it's kind of dealing with some MK Ultra stuff. And so at one point your character gets drugged and you basically have a zombies game in the campaign.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I'm not a fan of the zombies mode in Call of Duty, like ever. And
that's
so
a very unpopular opinion.
I didn't appreciate having zombies in the campaign. And it's like, this is annoying. And then in the end, it kind of flashes back between you like defending this base during like this massive raid, and you in the mind of this woman, like trying to, you know, get information out of her. So it's like, oh, she's been drugged and you need to get some information. So you're kind of playing her flashbacks from her perspective. But all the time I'm like, I don't care about this woman. Like, I don't care I don't care about her story, her sob story of a backstory. I don't care why you're being a terrorist. I just want to shoot the terrorists. I don't want to sympathize with them. So that's annoying. But whenever the game is about shooting, it's pretty good. So yeah, it is the quintessential like popcorn blockbuster of gaming.
Yeah, and that's what it's supposed to be. That's how it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So it is. I mean, there's a lot riding on that game. a lot riding on that game for Microsoft. Do you think that it was? Do you think its shoulders are strong enough to hold that weight?
I don't know. Like, that's why I wanted to play the Modern Warfare games again, because I had heard kind of universal praise about them.
Mm-hmm.
But the Black Ops was always kind of the goofier version of Call of Duty, and I don't know. I wanted to play the prestige blockbuster. I wanted to play the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight Batman game instead of the
Right.
I don't know, Zack Snyder Batman game, right? You know, it's like, no, I want the prestige blockbuster, not the goofy over the top blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, I'm gonna have to look into like getting Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3.
Well, here you may have already downloaded it.
Yeah, maybe I accidentally did.
Maybe you do have it. All right. Any other games you want to talk about before we move on to news?
I will say I'm getting thirsty, so
We have a choice.
Andrew, you will have to decide which of these I drink.
You may have to be the the
Oh, peanut butter and jelly.
A
Easy.
sweet corn soda. Oh God. Okay, that's what Edie said.
Peanut butter
too.
and jelly. Yeah, peanut butter and jelly. So
I'm
this
trying
is
to do the best I can for you. That sounds the only one that sounds like
that's the
drinkable.
only one that doesn't sound as gross, but it also sounds very gross.
Oh yes, definitely.
So what's the name of the company again?
Lester's Fixins.
Lester's Fixins. Well, let me do it. Let me before you start. Let me actually do a thing. Lester's Fixins.
How's it smell? How's the aroma?
Oh yes, let me
Peanut
let me
butter
swirl it,
and jelly.
like true soda connoisseurs do.
You got your spit bucket.
Oh yeah, I've got it right here, my coffee cup.
Okay.
What does it smell like?
Does it have good mouthfeel? I don't know what that means, but
It does not taste like peanut butter and jelly. It tastes like peach soda.
Really?
Uh-huh.
well, that doesn't sound terrible.
There's no peanut butter taste. in it?
There's no peanut at all. There's
Maybe
there's
it's
zero
just the
nut
labels.
in this soda.
See, now I want you to open up the sweet corn just to see what sweet corn is.
Tune in next week.
Yes.
I've
So
got the next 12 weeks. I'll have a soda per episode.
They'll be working on that soda for 12 weeks.
So it's not bad tasting.
No, it's actually pretty good. Like I said, it's like kind of delicately sweet, like a peach. It's weirdly peach flavored.
Interesting. It may be that it's just the labels and not the actual soda flavor.
That could be. In which case, I really lucked out.
Yes, you did.
Although it could also be like those Harry Potter Jelly Bellies,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, oh yeah, here's all these flavors, and they're good, but then you get like shoe leather.
Yeah,
get
Birdie. What
mud.
was it? The mystery beans. Birdie Bot's
Oh,
mystery beans.
So do you know those come with a little game on them, or they can, where you have to flick a little wheel and it lands on one of them?
Oh no,
And-
I didn't.
Yeah, so it's a little game. There's two of the same color essentially for each, and when you flick the wheel, you're supposed to land on one of them, and you have to eat them. It's a little party game. I played this game.
Yeah.
These things are fucking disgusting. I wanted to gag eating a few of these.
What is it? Is this a Jelly Belly game?
It's
Yeah, it's like the Harry Potter Jelly Belly themed ones. It's like those good flavors and really
Boozle?
bad
Is that what
flavors.
it's called?
yeah, Bean Boozle.
Okay.
Some of the flavors are truly abysmal.
Yeah. So I'm on a video showing it that it looks like that they're identical. So
Old
looks like-
Bandage is the most disgusting. I want to point that out because they make it taste like an old bandage.
Oh
I
god,
don't know
that's
how.
terrible. Yeah, in the chat, AC Wraith linked to Lester's Fixin' Weird Soda Variety Pack.
Thank you very much for that. So you can't quite see it. So like some of them can either be strawberry banana smoothie or dead fish. You don't know.
There's 7th edition.
Peach or barf, buttered
Ugh.
popcorn or rotten egg, juicy pear or booger, chocolate pudding or canned dog food. Oh God.
Oh man,
Blueberry,
toasted
berry blue,
marshmallow or stink bug?
Oh, God.
berry blue, and toothpaste. Both okay. They're both fine.
Okay, I can believe that. Toothpaste is just kind of minty.
We actually all ate the toothpaste afterwards because we just wanted a different flavor in our mouth.
What was it?
You're
Birthday cake
toothpaste.
or dirty dishwater?
yeah, you got to wash out the dirty dishwasher flavor with toothpaste.
Coconut or spoiled milk? Ugh. Ugh.
The new one has liver cappuccino or liver and onions, which are
See, I
both,
love liver and onions. I would eat that.
God.
I would eat that all day.
strawberry banana smoothie and dead fish. Dead
Yep.
fish is disgusting. Old bandage makes you want to vomit. Burnt rubber makes it lingers.
Oh,
Okay.
so okay, maybe I just got the lucky peach one.
Maybe you got the lucky one.
Mhm.
All right. So now that we've done that, you want to move on to news?
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Let's hit. Wait for it. They've moved everything around now. They've moved everything around, and I can't find anything. All right. Let's hit the news. GameHounds news. The news commentary of the week in gaming with Gamer Edie, Nick DiNicola, and Andrew Smith. Wow.
What up?
It's nice to be able to hit that in the back of my head. Just be able to go through the hits of the past. To be
I'm
able
surprised
to
they call me AC Wraith.
yeah.
Like,
That's true.
All right. So first item is anybody? Nick?
Well, we can talk about the Activision since you've got one that relates to what I've got.
Okay.
Your story was that Activision responded to the Uvalde parents' Call of Duty lawsuit.
I think it's Uvalde.
Uvalde? Okay.
Uvalde.
I
Uvalde Elementary School, where the school shooter came in and killed 19 children, and it was just a literally bloody, horrible mess, and just a law enforcement debacle of
there was a famous scene
apocalyptic levels of
like
just stupidity.
I guess infamous security camera footage of a whole bunch of cops at a T-section hallway just kind of
hanging out, trying to figure out what they wanted to do.
Yeah, what do we
guy was
do?
in there shooting children.
Yeah.
The epitome of that was children's screams removed from video. That was part of it. It's awful.
It's absolutely awful. So anyway, the Uvalde parents have been suing everyone and everything that they can think of, which is understandable. They're angry, they're grief-stricken, and they want accountability because, of course, the shooters no longer can be held accountable. So they sued Activision Blizzard because, according to reports, the shooter had used Call of Duty and learned about at least one of the firearms that he used from Call of Duty and had played with it on Call of Duty, playing levels to essentially, quote unquote, in their opinion, train. They've also sued the Instagram owner Meta and the gun manufacturer Daniel Defense. In their lawsuit, they said this three-headed monster knowingly exposed the perpetrator to the weapon, conditioned him to see it as a tool to solve his problems, and trained him to use it. At the time of last May's filing, Activision called the shooting, quote, horrendous and heartbreaking, but noted that millions of people around the world enjoyed the video games without turning to horrific acts, which we've had that discussion repeatedly since GameHounds started in 2008 when Jack Thompson was around.
That was his name. Yeah, I was trying to search my brain for that.
Right, and Leland Yee, that has frequently been used as they played a violent video game, so the video game manufacturer or the publisher and the creator, the developer, is at part at fault because they trained this person or desensitized the perpetrator to violence of that nature. This was filed. I don't know how long ago it was filed. But Stephen Totillo was
Game
able
file.
to,
Yep.
yeah, through the GameFile newsletter. Activision formally submitted its initial defense of this lawsuit that's like 150 pages long, legal document. They filed it. It's there's a 6-page direct response to this lawsuit, which they filed in California because Activision was a California company, even though the shooting happened in Texas. Let's see, quote, here's one of the quotes. Call of Duty tells complex stories that explore real-world combat scenarios that soldiers face in modern warfare. There can be no doubt Call of Duty is expressive and fully protected by the First Amendment. And bringing a laundry list of causes of action against Activision premised on allegedly dangerous, hyper-realistic content in the Call of Duty video games played by the perpetrator who committed these heinous acts of violence, the complaint runs headfirst into this overriding, controversial principle. They also address something that was said in the initial complaint by the Uvalde parents. They had said that one of the things that they were holding against Activision was that the weapon used by the shooter was something he was introduced to on Call of Duty. They alleged that he learned about the gun he used from a loading screen in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. In the response, Activision points out that it is the generic assault rifle that is depicted in that loading screen that they cite was deliberately anonymized to ensure it didn't feature any identifiers that could link it to any particular firearm manufacturer.
That was one of the interesting things that Totillo sort of analyzes in his newsletter, is that this gives us kind of a peek into the development of Call of Duty in a way that you never have before.
Right.
And the fact that like they're not signing deals with gun manufacturers to get those guns into the game.
Exactly the
They're
opposite.
purposely like taking out any sort of identifying characteristics of the manufacturers so that they can just make a generic looking gun.
Right.
And it's like, that's really interesting because I don't know the particularities of like gun design, but to know that they do that is just really interesting, and it goes against what I had initially expected. Because I remember back in like the 2000s or something, there was like a gun manufacturer hyping up that, oh, this new gun is going to be in Call of Duty, and like maybe they had a deal like that way back when.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they definitely
I remember
do not
playing not Call of Duty, but
Battlefield.
Thank you. Where I had recently purchased a rifle, and I'm like, oh, hey, that's the rifle I just bought. And it didn't feel anything in particular like the rifle that I just bought.
You're like, wait a minute, this is
like, hey, that's my rifle. I'm like, yeah, it sort of looks like it, but I mean, that was the last time that I saw specific guns by specific manufacturers in detail like that being used. And this was years and years and years ago.
On the flip side of this, I remember playing SOCOM back in the PS2 days. And what's funny about them is they changed all the names of the guns so that they were like one letter off from like the actual gun.
Yeah, his M17.
Yeah. M18.
Yeah, what is it? AK-48.
Yeah, AK-48.
Here's the F90 instead of the P90. Like
right. So the other thing that was cited, or that Activision responded to, their second point of contention about this whole loading screen that the shooter apparently used, according to the parents and the initial complaint, used to learn about this particular weapon that he used in the shooting. By the time the perpetrator had played the game in November of 2021, the loading screen had been changed and wouldn't have been seen by him anyway. So I mean,
it was an ad for Warzone and the seasonal content for Warzone.
Right. So obviously this is going to be quite the fight. It is going to be, I mean, they're obviously citing 3 different entities. The Activision Blizzard, what was the other one? Activision Blizzard,
Daniel Defense and Instagram?
the Daniel Defense and Instagram. And they're kind of all lumped together. I am guessing that at a certain point, those are going to be separated out, and Activision will be able to stand, because each of them have different arguments about why they shouldn't be held liable for this. And Activision's arguments are not bad.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I just don't think that they should be held liable at all. Otherwise,
that's true.
There are other games, for instance, VR has a game called Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, and it's literally a simulation that has really accurate gun-like designs and models. A substantially better platform if you wanted to get a feel for such things, but
look,
it's still fake.
We just talked about Call of Duty and how good it feels to play. It does not feel realistic.
No.
At no point when I was playing it was I like, this is a sim. It's like,
this is how I can go do this now.
This feels like an action movie level of sim. It's a sim of an action movie. It's a sim of like Arnold Schwarzenegger or John Wick, not reality.
This is an argument that has been made for decades.
Oh yeah, since Doom.
It has already been debunked multiple times. I mean, I hate to call it, fake, but it is. That I can see, I mean, the way that they described it, they literally called it something that Jack Thompson used, quote, training camp for mass shooters, they said in their, that's a direct quote out of their complaint. Teaches teenage boys will learn to kill with frightening skill and ease. Those are things that were said decades ago and have since, in multiple studies, and also let's not talk about the First Amendment, but in multiple studies has been found completely debunked.
I mean, also you consider that at 18, you can literally go off and join the military.
Right.
You're still a teenager. You could still go just do that, and then you'll literally be trained.
You could actually learn how to do it for realsies. If he had gone into the military for 4 years and come out and done that, would they be suing the Pentagon for training a mass shooter? How many members of ex-military members have done heinous crimes? Nobody sues the U.S. government for making them soldiers.
I think they've tried. It obviously doesn't work.
Doesn't do well. Doesn't go well for anybody.
Bottom
line is that I, in my humble and non-expert opinion, I am not a lawyer. I just have, in my many years, read a lot of cases and a lot of complaints.
It keeps coming up.
And also literally seen complaints just like this in the past that have failed. This doesn't seem to be treading any new water. This isn't forging any new ground. It isn't finding a unique way to sue a game developer for a mass shooting. It's the same old, second verse, same as the first. A little bit louder and a little bit worse. It's always the same. It never goes well.
What's a little different this time, though, is that in its response, Activision revealed the budgets of the last 3 Call of Duty games, which kind of out of nowhere. It wasn't really relevant information, but it was just we're just having a conversation. And they said Black Ops 3 2015, Treyarch developed the game over 3 years with a creative team of hundreds of people, and over the game's life cycle, which includes post-release content, cost $450 million and sold 43 million copies. Modern Warfare in 2019, the remake, cost $640 million throughout its life cycle and sold 41 million copies. Black Ops Cold War took $700 million in development costs.
Eye-watering amount. Nearly three quarters of $1 billion to make that game.
Mm-hmm.
That is eye-watering.
But what's interesting, and I forget where I saw, I think it was a tweet or like a YouTube video where someone was like kind of breaking down, oh no, maybe it was an article. But it was like explaining the cost of all this. Why does it cost so much? How is that possible? Well, they take several years to make, and they take thousands of people to make.
Yes.
And that's the key, is that it's the labor costs. That's all it is.
It's always been labor costs.
A lot of people.
Labor costs account for like 60% of most people's like operating budgets. It's crazy.
Yeah. Because those numbers don't include marketing. Those are pure development costs.
I also think that like I feel like in an effort not to be responsible for their own employees and to hire more employees, there seems to be a growing contract industry in the gaming space where like you can't just hire 20 people to handle something. You have to hire a studio who has 100 people to work on this project. Like,
right.
Because they're working on 14
to studios. You break it down into individuals, like essentially like hiring companies to fill your.
That's because they lay off all the internal teams, and they're like, okay, we need, and they had mentioned this in the suit. We need someone to make a loading screen menu. We're going to outsource that to another company
that makes loading screen menus. That's all they do.
Specializes in loading screen menus.
I think it looks good on the spreadsheet for the year.
And I'll bet that's why they do it. Yeah.
But I think it overall increases the cost because you can't just hire 20 dedicated people to your project. You have to hire 150 people who are working on 4 different things, and you have to pay for all of that labor.
Right. And there's a lot of overhead that and that's the ultimate thing about outsourcing. Unless you can outsource to foreign companies where everybody's being paid pennies by comparison to, like United States wages. If you're just paying American citizens in America to make stuff and you're not getting cheaper overall rates for them, you're actually paying more because you're paying for the overhead of the company that you're hiring.
Well,
they're adding profit. Everybody's taking a little bit extra profit. So ultimately the costs balloon.
That's also why when Ubisoft closed a bunch of their studios recently, they closed all the California studios.
I mean,
because those employees.
First off, our people are very much more expensive because
cost of living is higher. So
also we have some really very strong employee protection and employee benefit rules
businesses hate
that in the state that everybody that's hired in the state has to follow that doesn't in other places. So it's expensive to hire an American or a Californian, and it's even more expensive when you add in the government mandated and also take into account the risks for violating California law that are that don't exist in other states.
I mean, I think like when you break it down, it's okay. So instead of like the company spending X amount of revenue on like operating costs because you have like those 20 other people, it looks better to be like, oh no, this project just cost us 700 million, but we're operating at like 10 million, whatever. That's a random number.
Right. Our operating costs are much lower. Yeah.
Yeah. On a side note, before we move on, AC Wraith a while back said he knew P90s from SG1.
Oh yeah, Stargate SG1.
SG1 just shout out. It's a great show. Watch it. Like, do it. P90s are one of my favorite like fictional weapons in games. I mean, it's a real weapon, but like in games, just because of that show as well.
Oh, he says I learned about the P90 from GoldenEye.
That was me. I said that.
You did. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I would like to know what the latest Call of Duty games did, because like you only have those 3 games.
Right.
And those 3 games represent a significantly increasing budget, but also decreasing sales. Right? They went from 450 million, 640 million to 700 million. Then they went from 43 million copies sold, 41 million copies sold, 30 million copies sold.
Wow, I did not
But
realize that was such a huge drop between
but
before.
I
Was it?
remember like Black Ops Cold War was kind of like an off-brand. It was like a low year, and that was followed by Vanguard, which was like the lowest selling Call of Duty. But then Modern Warfare 2 came out and it sold huge. Modern Warfare 3 sold huge. Like, I wonder, are these 3 games just like the lowest ones and then the sales jump back? Like, I want to see more information because we got a peek behind the curtain, but that peek is not the whole story.
Yeah, and you'll
Well-
never find that out. I mean, maybe if there's another lawsuit for something else, but chances of us actually finding out that information are pretty slim.
Well, consider how those numbers are going to change with Game Pass.
Yeah.
Oh,
How
yeah,
does that factor in?
absolutely. Talk about trying to figure out sales numbers when you're talking about Game Pass. Talk about being completely unable for anyone to kind of nail stuff down except internally. You can't even at that point opine anything because you don't know, because it's just it's layers of complexity when it comes to sales.
I think if
Well, I
you're
guess
tracking,
that could.
go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna segue into something else.
According to AC Wraith, it says Call of Duty's development budget ballooned by $250 million between 2015 and 2020 due to an eye-watering $700 million.
Yeah, that's the one he was mentioning. I was just going to add quickly to this, and it's gone.
Oh.
It's gone.
Sorry.
My brain. No. My brain has deleted it from
Oh
the buffer.
no!
Right. Yeah, I just moved it out of short-term memory.
Game Pass. I think the only way to really track that would be who you'd have to cross-reference people who bought Game Pass when Call of Duty came out and then immediately downloaded and played Call of Duty.
Right. That's the only way that you could figure that out.
Anyone who already had Game Pass beforehand, maybe you couldn't count, or maybe you try to add in people who downloaded it right away after having bought Game Pass after the acquisition of Activision. This gets really muddy really quickly, that even if you have all the data, it gets really hard to determine who bought what for what.
I loaded up on Game Pass before the price hike, specifically to play Call of Duty and Indiana Jones. I didn't play either of those games when they released. I waited until I had like the weeks off for the holidays. So how would they wouldn't even count that? I had Game Pass for like 3 months before I actually took advantage of it for those 2 games.
That's my point. Like, you wouldn't necessarily, you either would or wouldn't fall into the category of acquisitions for Call of Duty. It's going to get weird.
Yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, to add an extra layer of like an extra data point on this, the harder it gets to be able to figure out how many people actually quote unquote purchased a game or what their actual sales numbers are. It gets harder and harder for investors and shareholders to be able to identify if something didn't do well, if the company screwed up. They can't. The company could literally be making up numbers and no one would be able to know. There's no sheet anywhere. There's no data anywhere. At that point, the number of sales means nothing because there's no accountability for that. And there's no way for investors to know if a game was a complete flop or not, because there's nobody or no one who can even report those numbers except the company itself. And there's no paper trail for them to tell the truth.
Well, on that note, there are some further rumors about Xbox games coming to PlayStation. And it's the majors. Basically, there's rumors that this year there's going to be a Halo collection and a Gears of War remastered collection, both of which are kind of rumored to be coming to PlayStation.
I'd be okay with that. I would love to play Halo on a PlayStation, if only just to say I did.
And that doesn't include Halo Infinite. It's the Halo Master Chief Collection, I imagine.
Which was not that well received anyway. So
well, it wasn't well received when it came out, but now it's beloved.
Yeah,
it's beloved more than Infinite.
True.
But yeah, that would be a major shift to have the two of the biggest franchises associated with Xbox going to PlayStation.
On a quick side, AC Wraith said something better than passing out mid-podcast chaos, and I don't know what that's reference to. Maybe me losing it.
Oh, he kind of fell asleep earlier in mid-podcast, and
he did.
Yes.
Yeah, he had said that oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry I passed out.
Yeah, no, he did it during the Black Ops tangent, and then came back before we were done, so it was fine.
Yeah, no worries.
But
yeah, that's Xbox, and also this comes on the heels of I saw Paul Tassi had an article that over the holidays, it looks like the PS5 was outselling the Xbox by 5-1.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this was the second thing I was going to say. Xbox plan seems to definitely be pivoting to. He's going for it. He's drinking the peach peanut butter and jelly.
In case you missed it, it actually tastes more like a peach soda than it does peanut butter and jelly.
Xbox plan seems to be pivoting from consoles to just software, lower overhead, less investment.
Right.
I think we're looking at Xbox in general. It doesn't seem like it's been bringing out the performance gains like the PlayStation has over the last couple of years in general. And I think they realize that, and they just realize it's much easier to do this.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be.
Their whole marketing strategy of anything is an Xbox turns out it's working because people aren't buying Xboxes.
Well, I mean, I think what they're going to do, and they're queuing up for this, is building a cloud machine that's going to be cheap, like $200.
This year, they had also mentioned at CES, where is it? Blah 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 blah. On The Verge, Jason Rowland, Microsoft's VP of Next Generation, talked to The Verge during CES about Windows handheld gaming experiences this calendar year. And he kind of just teased that, the Windows handheld gaming experience will change. And you could interpret that as, they're going to come out with a Xbox handheld. But what that really means, as you read the details, is they're looking at working closer with Lenovo and the people that make the, what was it? What was the Legion Go? It's Lenovo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, working closer with them on their handheld devices. So again, like you said, Andrew, they're not looking to make the hardware. They're getting into the software.
The software run better on other.
They're looking to partner with hardware manufacturers who can do that, and they will provide maybe a more handheld-friendly Xbox experience.
Well, I mean, the Ally ROG and the Steam Deck really changed the game as far as handhelds.
Yeah,
and it was very clear that Windows was incredibly lacking. So, I mean, if they're building an OS that is essentially a Game Pass machine for these things, I think that's a good market. You subsidize it a little bit so you get a lot of power out of a machine, and you can drive the price down below a Steam Deck or an Ally ROG, and then you just put Game Pass on it, and you're looking at something that I think will sell well.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd want that.
The PlayStation Portal has been a quiet hit for Sony. Yeah. And everyone was kind of laughing at it when it came out, but between just the updates they gave it that actually allowed it to be played over Wi-Fi so that you could take it out of your house, and also just the fact that it kind of turns out people like having a handheld. I think there was a story that, again, GameFile, Steven Titolo, the peak usage time for the PlayStation Portal is an hour after the peak PlayStation console usage time.
It's so I want to go lay down.
It seems like people will play on the console until 9:00, then they go to bed and take the Portal and play until 10.
Right. Makes sense. Wind down time while lying in bed. All right. So let me hit a story from me. We're running out of kind of stories or time for stories. Okay. Another kind of big thing that happened over the 2 weeks that we were gone, we were not doing a show, that we were dark. Ubisoft announced that it is delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows again. Now, there's interesting theories about why that's happening. So according to, there were two statements, a corporate statement and a fan statement that were made by Ubisoft. So they've delayed it essentially from, what was it, like
February.
It was supposed to be February 14th. It was supposed to be Valentine's Day. They've now delayed it to March 20th, so more than a month later. So the corporate statement was, quote, "This additional time will allow the team to better incorporate the player feedback gathered over the past 3 months and help create the best conditions for launch by continuing to engage with the increasingly positive Assassin's Creed community." Now, the fan statement was, "Each week has brought valuable feedback from our community. While we've already made remarkable strides, we believe a few additional weeks are needed to implement that feedback and ensure even more ambitious and engaging day one experience." But as much as they are mentioning, player feedback and wanting to be able to incorporate it, the key, and this is something that was, I think it was Paul Tassi that kind of noted that the key phrase in both of them was create the best conditions for launch. And his take is, as much as all the rest of it sounds great, that's everything else is blah 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 blah. The create the best conditions for launch is the key phrase, because what that did, and he suggests that they moved it out of February because, as we know, February is absolutely jam-packed with a ton of games. It is insane what February looks like right now. Kingdom Come Deliverance is coming out February 4th. Civ 7 is coming out February 11th. Assassin's Creed was set for February 14th. Avowed is February 18th. And then Monster Hunter Wilds is February 28th.
And there was another one. Pirate Yakuza.
Pirate Yakuza
is in there too.
I thought that they moved that. I thought that delayed.
No, I think it's still February.
Is it?
It's nuts though. Like, the point being that
February
is
just it is,
and like
absolute chaos.
That's rational, right? There's a lot of games coming out in February. Let's move the release date to March. That makes so much sense. It's so rational. So like purely yes, obviously this is a good move. Why the fuck do you like hide it behind all this bullshit speak? At least Microsoft, when Xbox delayed Avowed into February, they basically said, yeah, we've got a lot of games coming out at the end of the year, so we're going to delay this to when people have more time to play it. Unexpectedly, February kind of got stacked up around them then, but like at least they were like, hey, look, we've got Call of Duty, we got Indiana Jones. If we put out Avowed in between those two, it'll just get lost. So we're gonna delay it.
Like, I think
it's the same thing happened with Kingdom Come Deliverance. Kingdom Come Deliverance was supposed to be happening later in February. They moved it up. They moved it to a sooner date so that they could be at the beginning of February, simply because they didn't want to be in the midst of the February 11th to February 18th nightmare of Civilization, Assassin's Creed, and Avowed.
Yeah.
I just want to say that February 2nd was the best update to GameHounds that we got. In the chat, AC Ray said he launched on February 2nd. And we're saying, like, that has been the best GameHounds update ever.
Which one? Who launched?
I launched AC Ray. Did he join?
Oh, he launched on February 2nd? It is.
I think it's his birthday.
Best update that we've ever had.
Oh, okay.
Was the AC Ray DLC?
Oh, that is his birthday. And that's a streaming day, too. That's a Sunday.
Yes, no, that's his birthday. So
we'll have to have some cake.
Yes, we will get you a cake on February 2nd. We will have it here. In fact, I may send you some cake because I have your address. I will send.
Is it still the cake from your birthday eating? Is it still there?
No, we did finish the cake. By the way, did I ever talk about my cake? My cake was insane. It was 3 layers. Chris bought a 9-inch cake. He didn't realize it was a 3-layer 9-inch cake covered with at least another layer and a half of buttercream frosting. It weighed 25 pounds if it weighed an ounce.
He brought some over here and it was heavy.
Oh yeah, I brought him a quarter of it. I gave Nick a quarter of my cake because
we didn't eat the whole thing. We like had a tiny slice, ate a couple bites, and we're like, this is
not
too
right.
much.
And the thing is, and I'm getting another one of those cakes for Chris's birthday, but I'm getting a 6-inch. I'm not getting a 9-inch.
AC Ray says, I wait in fear for the frozen turkey cake.
I'm not going to send you a frozen turkey cake. I may send you a peanut butter and jelly soda cake, though.
Listen, I was going to make the joke that like that's a single cake for me and everyone else can get their own cake. But after you said like 25 pounds, that's kind of a scary amount of cake.
Oh, it was terrifying.
The picture you sent was like
cut that thing. I literally had to use 2 hands to cut it because it was so thick and dense. It was
the actual size of the cake didn't seem that impressive.
They make cakes. Kara's cupcakes are fantastic, but their cakes are no joke. They're not to be trifled with. Anyway, so
6-inch cake.
Yeah, we'll
Chris.
cake, but it won't be a frozen turkey cake, I promise. So
Get
yeah,
him a guitar cake.
Oh, that would be cool, actually.
What was it?
A guitar cake.
Who? Oh, for AC Wraith?
Yeah, so you can hook it up to his amp. You can play it.
Please don't do not plug your guitar cake into your amp, please. That's a bad idea. So yeah, Ubisoft, smart. Hiding the fact that they're delaying it so that they don't run into everybody else, kind of dumb. But then again, that is
the Ubisoft way.
They would rather lie to you for no damn good reason than tell you the truth. It is their knee-jerk reaction is if something happens, lie about it.
It's kind of funny, but like years ago when Watch Dogs came out, that was also their MO, except they would just lie to you on stage about how good it looked. And then they stopped doing that and they just had to lie about other things.
They also just lie about the game being good too.
Yes.
So Matilda Cake, Bruce Bogtrotter for the win. I've never heard of them.
Is that from the movie Matilda? Was there like a big cake of Matilda in the movie?
I don't know. But he said his mother made him a guitar cake when he was little.
Yeah.
He says he doesn't have an amp. Edie bought a modeling software like a year before the guitar. I know.
A movie, book, musical, etc. Okay, so yeah, there's a cake in the story.
Got it.
Yeah, poor Ubisoft. It will be fascinating to compare Ubisoft in January to Ubisoft in December. Whatever happens, this is going to be a major year of change for Ubisoft. Either they will survive or they won't.
Right. I'll say that this is the year that if they don't do great, not even well, if they don't do great, it's over. They cannot fail the way that they have been failing the last several years one more year.
It depresses me a bit because Ubisoft has a lot of games that I hold a deep affection for.
I think in the early aughts era, I think they were hands down the best publisher.
By far. Yeah.
I'd love to see more Ghost Recon.
It all falls at the feet of Yves Guillemot and the Guillemot family. They all needed to step away from that company 5 years ago, at a minimum. And they could have, and they should have. And they could have done it very easily, and they could have done it with their heads held high. What they're doing is that they're letting their ego run this great company into the ground. And I say this as someone who lost 5 figures on their stock.
Oh, shit, Edie.
It's in my
thing. I won 5 figures shorting them.
So it's not like it was.
No, that's 10,000 at the minimum.
Hey, you're invested in NVIDIA, right? So like,
oh yeah,
you made it back.
No, I mean I got into NVIDIA too late, but I did invest into Reddit, and Reddit's done well for me. Thank you very much. But yeah, no, I lost a lot of money. I say this as a burnt shareholder, so it's not just a.
Well, now is the time to buy their stock because they might sell.
They should have walked away 5 years ago, but it's their own damn ego and their little shitheads on their shoulder talking to them, and they're not using their heads. They're not bad business people. They're just getting really shitty advice and listening to really shitty people who do not have the best interest of their company in their heads. They have the best interest for themselves. And Yves Guillemot is being played for a sucker and has been for a lot of years. And I'm a little salty because 5 figures is not a small amount of money. So I got a little extra oomph to be able to complain about this. They needed to walk away. They didn't, and I'm angry. For many reasons.
They've just kind of had a string of flops. They haven't had a hit for a while.
And not just a string of flops, but they've had a string of flops and a bunch of money spent on absolutely foolish, unmitigated bullshit. Their whole diving into the NFTs and crypto and
I mean, to be fair, they didn't really dive that deep into the NFTs.
They spent a lot of money on it, and they made less than $1,000.
On a side note, because no one ever talks about it, For Honor's still going strong. I just want to throw that out there.
For Honor's a great game. For Honor's a perfect example of a really good game that needs to be supported. The thing is it's really not very well supported by comparison.
Fuck Siege. Siege gets all the credit. I'm talking about For Honor, who is the redhead stepchild who's just trucking along, doing its thing, never gets mentioned in any press or anything like that.
Or even by Ubisoft. Ubisoft doesn't even mention it.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to forget that that it has For Honor. It acts like it doesn't know it.
But that's kind of the ideal live service game, right? Everyone wants to be the next Fortnite, but For Honor kind of proves you can chug along under the radar and be okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It just becomes about opportunity cost at that point for Ubisoft. Are we going to keep going? I think Ubisoft's always had problems, but I think they pioneered the open world genre in a way, like back when it was super popular, like early 2010s. Mm-hmm. They kind of nailed that formula, but I think it's an example of they've tried to catch up to trends with live services, battle royales, like coming out years late to the party, or not innovating enough on the open world formula that they have.
Yeah,
it's a little too late, a little too early.
Kept doing the same thing.
And I think the landscape has changed. People are tired of open world games. The formula for storytelling really gets hampered with open world games. And they have not evolved in a meaningful way for their big titles. Yeah. And it's catching up to them.
Yeah. So anyway, that was one of the big story that kind of hit while we were gone was that whole juggernaut of, even though Ubisoft claim did not cite it, everyone knows why they moved off of February. So if you were waiting for Assassin's Creed Shadows, you're going to have to wait another month and change.
I also wonder if it gives them... so I think that's a good reasoning for why they moved it, but I'm also wondering if it gives them negotiating leverage for stuff behind the scenes. Because if they release Assassin's Creed and it fails, they can go, oh, look, all of your properties are shit now. You have nothing. But if they go, hey, in the next month or two, we're working on a deal behind the scenes, they can be like, you're getting into the ground floor of Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is going to be huge. And this gives them a little bit of leverage for any future negotiations while they're working it out.
Basically, they want to sell to Tencent before the game comes out and possibly flops.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's my other thought. That's probably less substantiated than just moving it out of February.
As far as conspiracy theories that have been spouted on this podcast go, that is one of the better ones. Mm-hmm. That is one of the more likely, less conspiratorial ones.
That is the thinnest of tinfoil hats that have been in the tinfoil hat conspiracy. That one almost is a real hat. Almost.
Because they have nothing else.
Very, very thin.
I don't know what you're talking about, Andrew. They've got the banger Beyond Good and Evil 2 just waiting to be released. It's just sitting on a shelf somewhere.
It is. It's sitting on a shelf and it's waiting for me.
AC fucking nailed it.
Of Tencent. We're gonna throw this. I wasn't gonna actually talk about it, but you brought up Tencent. Like you've spoken Beetlejuice 3 times. Tencent this week. Something interesting happened. The United States government has identified or that Tencent should, I think it's on a list now of companies that the U.S. government believes to have ties with the Chinese military.
See it?
It's not going to necessarily affect anything, but this listing from the Pentagon, it doesn't come with any specific sanctions or anything about it, but it is designed to act as a warning to U.S. businesses that work with companies on this list, Tencent being one of them now, that could lead to them potentially not getting any future Pentagon contracts that they might be in the running for. So RFPs, requests for proposals. It's like if it's found that they are working with Tencent or any of the other companies on this list, it might make it a little more difficult for them to get that contract that they are bidding for.
Yeah. But Tencent has said that this is a mistake. This is an error.
Yep.
And like there is precedent for this label being incorrectly applied or accidentally applied to other companies, and it then gets removed like after a month or so. Mm-hmm. So it's like, is this a mistake? Is this not? What's going on? Like, it's all kind of up in the air and confusing at the moment, especially since it doesn't come with any actual consequences.
No, it doesn't come with any actual consequences, but it may kind of, sort of, because then they're on this kind of list, and if an American company might want to work with them for something, maybe they don't.
Someone just doesn't want Ubisoft to sell to Tencent, so they're like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to throw a wrench into that whole deal thing. They're a military associated company.
Take
that, Ubisoft.
Tencent has said, quote, "We are not a military company and supplier," and that they said they are working with the Department of Defense to address any misunderstanding about that. So that they may be dropped off that list, but currently they are on that list. So if you are a company going for a government contract and you have dealings with Tencent, you might want to, at least for the moment, think about it.
So all the game companies in the U.S. are not going to be able to make those military contracts. Dang.
Yeah.
Dude, Tencent
think about it. Things like Microsoft.
Yeah, but Microsoft doesn't have any business with Tencent.
No, but maybe they might in the future have some kind of partnership with Tencent. I mean, Microsoft has a partnership with Crystal Dynamics. Microsoft and Crystal Dynamics is owned by
Embracer.
No,
but doesn't Tencent have something in Embracer?
Yes, they do. So technically, Microsoft is working with Tencent.
Man, okay, so Tencent, it's not even that they're a Chinese company. I'm incredibly distrustful of them just because of how much they've wormed their way into like almost every single studio, up into like Ubisoft, like if they get it.
Oh wait, maybe Tencent isn't invested in Embracer. I just Googled that, and
I thought they were.
Apparently a Tencent subsidiary, Miniclip, announced that they would acquire EasyBrain from the Embracer Group for $1 billion.
That's what it was. Maybe that's what I remember. I knew there was something with Tencent that they just acquired some stuff from it. Yeah. But that's an example of something that could easily be the case that would tie Microsoft to Tencent. Not directly, but, the way companies do through subsidiaries and connections and partial owners, and next thing you know. So yeah, that was my Tencent. Oh, since we mentioned Tencent, that was my speaking of story. So we have a few minutes before we want us to close the show because Nick has to leave at 4 since he's got to go.
Yes, but it's not
with the parents.
It's not a hard rule.
In fact, it's 2 hours is good. We don't need to.
I just got a text like 3 minutes ago that they are leaving to come over here, and they're like 30-40 minutes away.
Okay.
So
even so,
we can keep going for 30 and 40 minutes.
Let's not. I mean, 2 hours is more than enough. For
I've still got some stories.
Nick, we're not that good.
I've still got some stories.
I have a short one.
Like to hear yourself talk.
Andrew, I want to hear your story.
It's just about NVIDIA graphics cards and CES.
Yeah, that's
that they
right.
announced.
What is
yeah.
it? Series
Well, okay.
50 or something
Before
like
we get to that, I've got two short ones.
Okay.
First of all, the Switch has officially passed the PS2 in lifetime sales to become the second best-selling console of all time. So,
damn it.
good for the Switch.
Yeah.
And
fuck Nintendo.
I mean, yes, fuck Nintendo. 2024 is the year that like the mask came off.
It really did.
Oh,
It really did.
But then also there was a news story that the Until Dawn movie will actually have a different cast and different story and different characters than the Until Dawn game.
Then why is it an Until Dawn movie?
Yes, it begs the question.
That's not an Until Dawn movie. That is a movie about something other than Until Dawn.
A quick aside for this, because I think I can explain this, I hope. Brandon Sanderson, he does a podcast, right?
Right.
Okay.
And he was talking about like movie deals and like what happens when you option off your IP. And he mentioned that the only option he gave out was Emperor's Soul, which is a novella of like 110, 20 pages. That's about literally 2 characters are in the show. It's kind of artsy and all of that. And when he optioned it, the studio who options it gives it to a writer to adapt. And the thought process is that when you give this writer the IP, it's not how do I make this as faithful as possible. It's how do I make my ideas that I've always wanted to write and just use this IP as a vehicle to get that out.
Right.
And his example for his Emperor's Soul was this 2-person like what do you call it when it's a capsule episode, right? Where it's like
bottle episode
became a world-spanning adventure with time magic and like all the stuff that he doesn't ever do. And I'm wondering if this Until Dawn movie is they gave it to a writer and he was like, oh, I've always wanted to tell my horror story. And so instead of writing the Until Dawn movie, he wrote his horror movie.
Right, and then and loosely based on something Until Dawn-esque.
Which would not be out of the question because it's being written and directed by David S. Sandberg, who is like a horror writer-director.
I'm surprised it's not Uwe Boll.
Oh God, I would watch
Uwe
that.
Boll. What was Uwe Boll doing? I just saw news of Uwe Boll.
Really? He's doing something?
With who's the actor with the cannibalism? Armie Hammer?
Yes, Armie
Hammer. Uwe Boll is doing something with Armie Hammer.
I'm in.
What was this?
Blood Rain 4. I don't. That's the only Uwe Boll movie I know. I guess Alone in the Dark.
Alone in the Dark, A Far Cry, Postal.
Postal was wild. I watched that.
Oh, what else did he do?
Did you watch it with us when I accidentally roofied
myself? He did Dungeon Siege.
No.
He did Dungeon Siege.
I watched it on my own.
That's right. No. Fuck, I found the news story. Oh God. We have to keep going. Uwe Boll is directing Armie Hammer in The Dark Knight. THE space DARK space KNIGHT. You remember that Christopher Nolan movie that came out like a decade ago? Yeah, it's the exact same title. And do you know what it's about? It is about a vigilante thriller. Oh, come on. Blah, 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 blah. The Dark Knight will see Hammer playing Sanders, a man who takes justice into his own hands as he sets out to hunt down criminals, while his crusade transforms him into a social media sensation and hero in the eyes of the public. The local police chief sees him as a menace to society and aims to take him down.
God. Sounds awesome, and I'm there for it.
So he took the Dark Knight Batman and then gave it the Spider-Man treatment.
I mean, he didn't even go that far. He's just making Batman.
No, I'd say he's making Spider-Man.
I mean, when you really think about it, what's the difference? When you really think about it.
Point.
Okay.
The difference is one guy has money, the other doesn't.
Batman isn't loved like Spider-Man is. Spider-Man became a neighborhood sensation.
That's true.
So that's my thoughts.
But along that same line with the Until Dawn movie, another case in point of that exact thing happening that is way before both your time, but I remember seeing it in the theater, this dates me, in high school, was Children of the Corn. Stephen King movie. They called it a Stephen King movie, but it was based on a short story that was in a collection of short stories called Night Shift. And I remember seeing Children of the Corn and going, that wasn't a very good movie. And then I read Night Shift and I'm like, oh, Night Shift isn't even about Children of the Corn. And then I found the short story and it was like, that's nothing like this movie. The short story is just like almost like barely a story. And what they did is they just blew it up into this whole other thing that had a kid named Malachi in it, which was the lead antagonist. And so really the only thing that had anything to do with anything about it was the phrase, the term Children of the Corn, and that there was a couple of characters that were named the same, one of them each being the antagonist being Malachi. Other than that, nothing else about it was the same.
Yeah, that's frustrating when that happens.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of like the same thing with the Until Dawn movie being nothing like Until Dawn, is that probably exactly that same thing happened. Brandon Sanderson did, probably the same thing with Stephen King.
In the chat, we should not remiss. AC Wraith has pointed out that Sony announced a Helldivers 2 movie in production and a Horizon Zero Dawn movie in production after the Netflix show has flamed out.
Mm-hmm. And along those same ideas, Sleeping Dogs live action film that was discussed and thought about is now officially canceled. It just didn't happen. That's what was
That's
it?
Too bad. That would have made a good one.
And the Fallout Season 2 is now delayed because it had to halt production because of the fires down in Los Angeles. In fact, pretty much all production on anything in Hollywood right now, even outside of Hollywood.
Yeah, I think you had a news story about how Critical Role is skipping shows.
Yeah, Critical Role canceled their show this week because of the fires down there. None of the main, like the people in Critical Role that we all know, Travis Willingham, Laura Bailey, Mariska Ray, all of them, they're fine. Their houses are fine so far. But many of their friends and people that they know have lost their homes, and also many of the people that work within the production company that makes Critical Role have lost their homes. So it's absolutely devastating, not only to the people in Pacific Palisades, which is not great, but it's to all of the other people that are connected to those people that their livelihood relies upon that, and there's nothing is being made in Los Angeles at this point.
John Goodman's house burned dound. I learned that.
John Goodman's house burned down, Billy Crystal's house burned down, Paris Hilton's house burned down, Mandy Moore's house, a lot of people's house. And these are just like the celebrities you know about. There are a lot of people that are connected to the entertainment industry that you don't know about, whose houses were burned down. And it wasn't just the multi-million-dollar homes you're seeing on the news in Pacific Palisades. A lot of them were just working class folk in Altadena, which is just in the hills of Pasadena. Okay. So yeah, a lot of people have lost their homes. A lot of people are displaced, and this is going to fuck up California in a lot of ways.
A quick aside, I was watching a podcast called Inside of You by Michael Rosenbaum. Have you guys heard about it?
No, I've heard of it. I've heard the name before.
He interviews a lot of actors and such, and Michael Rosenbaum is Lex Luthor from the old Smallville show. He's talking to Stephen Amell, the Green Arrow from the Arrowverse stuff.
That guy I know.
Yes, and he was talking about how he got big news. This was from 3 months ago, that they were shooting Suits LA, the spinoff for Suits in LA, and how it was life-changing for him because he lives in LA. And he was going to have the chance to work and live in LA. And I can only imagine. I listened to that last night, and that's so tragic to LA became a hellscape Literally.
Yeah. I at least think that show is like set to come out this year. So hopefully he at least like had a period where he could live the dream life of working in the same city that he lives in.
Mm-hmm.
Just aside, because I had literally listened to that last night, and like knowing that there's so much stuff going on in LA. Like,
that comes out next month.
Oh, it's probably in the can then. It's probably already filmed.
Yeah, February 23rd.
Okay. So that's probably okay. But think about like,
not okay, but like at least he got a chance
finally, after years and years and years and years of trying.
Yes.
To make it in, not even as an actor, just like getting their first job within the industry, doing what they wanted to do, and it's like, this is it. This is the moment that my life is going to change because I finally got either the role or the job or whatever it was working on this, and now LA is a hellscape. Everything burns down. It's just there's the scars go deeper than just the homeowners, and the scars are going to go deeper than just the houses.
Yeah, depending on how much
mess up a lot of people.
Depending on how much this impacts production of stuff. There was a lot of movie theaters between COVID and then the dual strikes. A lot of stuff got delayed. A lot of production stuff got down. And so there was a lot of movie theaters and a lot of movie theater owners who were like, just survive till 25. Because 2025 is supposed to have a slate of big movies. And so everyone's like, all right, just survive till 25 and the box office will come back. Because you remember last year, in the beginning of the year, there's all this talk about how the box office is down like 50% from the last year. It's awful. By the time the year ended, it's like, nah, they're neck and neck. They're even. Like, turns out people like going to theaters.
AC Wraith, sorry for interrupting. You're great. Oh, yeah. He just linked the episode, like the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
The episode itself.
Oh, wow. Yeah, on YouTube. But yeah, if this significantly impacts productions, then it's like, all right, we recovered from COVID and the dual strikes. 2025 is the year. Then, bam, another hit to production.
Yeah. Well, first off, then a strike, which just got resolved.
That's what I meant. Yeah, there's COVID and the strike.
COVID, then the strike.
And then it's like, 2025, things are back to normal, except then there's a big fire.
Yeah. I want to broaden the scope here because we've talked a lot about like actors and stuff, but like the crew, the people who work on these productions.
Yeah. Like you finally, after many, many, many years, finally get the job as the grip on a big show. And this is going to be your chance to actually get jobs in the future. Because you can't get a job until you have had a job. And you finally get that job.
And I'm sad for everyone who this is something that trickles down very fast, I think, like as far as like damages go. Like it's not just going to be crew, it's going to be all the supporting structures around development and all of that. And then this will just affect normal people working the Starbucks and stuff. Like this is going to affect all of them in massive ways.
It's going to affect the whole economy of California. Fortunately, this year, hey, everybody who thinks California sucks, we ran a surplus budget this year. But this is going to affect the California economy. Because essentially a source of a very large amount of our production, and let's not forget, we're also talking about games. There are a lot of studios down in Los Angeles, pick any of them. Ton of studios down there that they're all affected. A lot of their production people, a lot of their developers, a lot of their rank and file, a lot of their secretaries, and they don't call them receptionists and executive assistants are affected. Everybody's affected by this. It's so big. It is. You cannot wrap your head around how big this is.
Yeah, I mean, even outside of that, you mentioned like California's economy, right? Like, and how it ran a surplus.
Talking about billions of dollars of GDP that's gone from California.
The U.S.
The U.S. It's just California. Fun fact: this is going to affect everybody. This is going to affect the United States
because they amount for a
large
lot
portion of your GDP.
Yeah, like if we lost California, like from our GDP entirely, it is a massive hit. Like,
just think of all the corporate headquarters there, of all the corporations that, like, have warehouses and production facilities elsewhere in the United States, and now their corporate headquarters is, if not gone, severely affected.
Yeah.
AC Wraith's right, though. Like, everyone on the ground fighting this stuff who's doing what they can, because it's mostly a losing fight, man. There's no stopping this kind of thing. They're still doing their best.
Going how long? It's at 0% containment, and they're about to get another Santa Ana event tonight. It's about to get worse. And they have 0% containment on this. It's just a worst case scenario. So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that Critical Role was able. They also donated $30,000 to the California Community Foundation's Wildfire Recovery Fund. But, I mean, you're going to see a lot of LA-based stuff jacked from this for a very long time. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, lovely way to end the story. If we have something lighthearted to end this on so that I can leave, you guys can all keep talking about whatever you nerdy boys talk about, but I gotta go.
I don't know. I mean,
I kind of do.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got like a sequel to 2 stories from last year.
Okay.
Okay, so last year, you remember Take-Two shut down Private Division, which was like their indie game label.
Right.
And then everyone kind of went to they shut down Private Division. You also remember that there was this exodus from Annapurna Games where everyone just left. They're like, no.
And Annapurna, who's I believe the head of Annapurna is Larry Ellison's kid, Brittany, or something like that.
Yes.
Sorry if it's not Brittany, but Brittany.
So turns out that the still unnamed company that all the ex-Annapurna people made is going to be taking on all the games that were from Private Division.
Really?
So yeah, Kerbal Space Program and
that's right, I heard about that. But they're not calling it Kerbal Space Program. They're calling it Kittens Space.
Oh, they are?
No, it's like Kittens Space. Was it program? It was like Space Academy or something like that. Yeah, no, they've named it different because they don't have the IP for Kerbal.
Oh.
But they're essentially making Kerbal, but naming it something else. It was like Kittens Space something.
Yeah. So, like, 2 sad stories of last year.
Space Agency. That's what it is.
All of Private Division getting shut down, and then a bunch of Annapurna staff leaving. They've come together into a more positive story. So those games now have a publisher again.
That's good.
And the new publisher has games to publish.
Right. And not only that, they're publishing these games without the blessing and or IP of this shutdown company.
Yeah.
They're just making the game they wanted to make. And they're naming it something else. Which I love that idea.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, so when is GameHounds going to pick up other like publishing opportunities? I know you guys did Ookie Bookie Spelookie. Like, what else are you guys getting?
Hey, I got an AI guy that can make some hella good AI for those boxes. I want you to know.
And then we have
themselves now.
We have plans to expand Ookie Bookie Spelookie into a cinematic transmedia universe. There'll be comics, TV shows, movies,
figurines. Don't forget
let's
figurines.
talk about a white sphere
podcast
instead of a gray block.
Podcast
called the Gray Block.
Yeah.
With Nick.
Theatrical shows. We're gonna have a pop-up bar.
Netflix exclusives.
Yes, yeah. Live Netflix shows.
We're gonna have a casino in
NFTs.
Las
NFTs,
Vegas.
of course. AC Ray.
NFTs. Oh,
NFTs.
How do you think we're gonna pay for everything?
Of AI art.
Okay, here's my last one, and then I'm leaving, and y'all can talk whatever you want. Elden Ring's Night Rake Network test. They are taking signups. They said that when they had announced it, that they would be doing that. A post over on the Metro. Sorry, that's something else. The test was announced in December when we first heard about pretty much Elden Ring Night Rain, or when we kind of figured out what it was and how good it was. The sign-ups kicked off on January 10th, so 2 days ago, and they're staying open until January 20th. Now, this is just a way to sign up. It is not a guarantee that you're going to get it. You just want to let me give you the link. I'm putting in the link in the chat as we speak. If you are listening, it is going to be in the comment section. There it is. There is the link. And of course, I can't say this on the podcast, but you can go to either Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch and look under comments or the live chat. It will be at exactly at 4:08 p.m. Into it, exactly 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 58 seconds into the podcast, if that's how you can find it. But yeah, the only PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S are eligible as platforms for the test. So if you're PC, sorry, not for you, or any of the last-gen consoles, yeah, not for you. You'll still be able to play the full game when it comes out, obviously, because they're going to release for, at least we know, for the PC, but they're not doing this test for it. That being said, don't be surprised if you are challenged to sign up, because apparently once they opened it and it went out on the Reddit, it got a little bit hammered and is continuing to be hammered. So put aside a chunk of time to try to do this, because it ain't gonna be easy. The website is struggling under the weight of the millions of people trying to get into this.
I feel like they should have saw that coming.
Yeah.
I mean,
that doesn't surprise me. But
yeah.
So that's it. That's all I got. Anything else you want to talk about before we close out the show?
I was just going to mention the graphics code from CES, if you got time for that. Just going over prices and stuff.
Yes. Nick has all the time in the world for this. So go ahead. Well, I have to leave.
We can do it some other time.
Okay. Yeah. Next week, we need to talk about it, because that is a thing. And by the way, I will have answers to your questions that you sent me.
Okay, you never responded, so I was like, "Oh, did I?"
Oh no! I had him, but like every time I've asked, he's been like, "I'm not in a place where I need to think. I can think about this right now." I'm like, "Okay, well,
yeah, they're not easy questions.
About it. I need you to think about this." So, yeah,
does he have answers to those questions? Are they interesting questions to him?
I think they're very interesting questions. I don't know if he does, because as soon as I started asking about it, he's like, just woke up, dude. I just woke up. You cannot ask me shit like that when I'm barely awake. It's like, well, that's the only time I can catch up with you when you're nice and relaxed. He's like, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, they're generally deep technical questions.
They're very deep questions that has to do with game development and graphics cards and just very crunchy. So I will hopefully have answers for you.
And AC threw this in chat just in case if anyone doesn't want to wait or they're looking for highlights. He put a lot of the CES highlights in Discord as well. So make sure to check that out if you're interested.
Yeah, so if you want to find out about what was announced at CES about the new NVIDIA chip, the NVIDIA cards.
They can be kind of expensive. Wow. The top end, and we won't get into it, is $2,000. Yeah, I'm taking donations.
That's what it is retail. Let's find out.
They've always been expensive.
Secondary market.
I'm taking donations. They'll help with my video feed.
Yes.
No, done that. I'm done.
My rat will become high def.
You have a Patreon.
All right, everyone. Let's close this out. You've been listening to GameHounds. GameHounds episode 707. We can record this on Sunday, January 12th, 2025. I've been Edie Sellers. With me is Nick Nicola and Andrew Creation Chaos. If you ever want to get a hold of us, GameHounds.net is our website. GameHounds.com is our email. We record the show live every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Facebook, we are facebook.com/GameHounds. YouTube, we are GameHounds Vids, VIDS, videos, all one word. And on Twitch, we are the GameHounds. We would love to have you join us and be in the chat room and ask us questions, and we will respond. And if you can't do that, always go to our podcast. We are on iTunes and a bunch of other platforms, but generally speaking, the best place to find us is on iTunes podcast as GameHounds Podcast. I'm putting them up pretty consistently every week now. So if you want to catch us there, do me a favor. If you do subscribe, please, any of those platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, iTunes, subscribe. It makes a difference. And if you're watching right now, please, or even after the fact, if you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Twitch, hit the like button or the thumbs up button, or give it a little like star or kudos. Also makes a huge difference. But if you subscribe on iTunes, please also, can I ask a favor, leave us a little feedback on iTunes. It really, really helps. There's a couple of things. One, I get to find out what you think and any suggestions that you have, because let's face it, we've been doing this long enough that I've run out of ideas. And I would like to hear from you about what you think is right, what you think is wrong. Also, it's very helpful for Apple to see that people are making comments, because it moves us up and it makes it easier for other people to find us in the rankings. Hey, that matters very much when people are browsing. So if you want to help out the show, please do leave us some comments in iTunes. We've mentioned about Discord. Please join our Discord server. You can find that Discord information on the comments or in the description of all of those platforms. And you can also speak with Chaos and AC Wraith and everyone else. Please join our Discord. And of course, don't forget, we are Patreon funded. You can find us on patreon.com/GameHounds. We will talk to you next week, everyone. Have a great week. Take care of yourself and be safe. And if you're in LA, stay safe. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
That last bit
Thank you very
feels
much, AC Wraith, for actually posting us on Blue Sky to increase our presence from 0 to 100%. You rock.
Edie, I didn't want to interrupt you, but the audio mixing was a little rough there. Like, I think the back of the music is drowning you out slightly.
Oh, you should stop me when you hear it, because I can't hear it on my end.
Yeah,
I can
you
hear the
can't hear
music,
the
but I
music?
can't hear the mix.
Hmm.
So when
Yeah.
it's popping in and out, I rely upon you to say, hey, hey, you're popping in and out, to be able to like reduce.
Okay, I always thought that like it just sounded different in the final edit than it did streaming.
Okay,
Sure doesn't.
yeah.
What you hear goes on to the stream. So if you're listening on the podcast, I'm sorry. I will try to make because I can't hear it after the fact. That's kind of one of the downsides when everybody says, you don't need to edit anything, just put it up. This is the stuff that drives me nuts. So because I can't hear it after the fact, I have to release. It doesn't show up in my headset the way you guys are hearing it.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to mention. I didn't want to like interrupt while you were on your roll, so.
Oh, absolutely. Interrupt every time that something ain't right, especially with the sound. You've got to interrupt me, because
All I'm saying, you've told me to shut up plenty of times for the ending, and I didn't want to like hurt.
Shut up. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, AC Raids. Bye, everyone else. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.